discussion?
Yeah, sure. So my role in Smart actually is twofold. So I'm head of corporate development. At the same time, I'm president of our actually cross-industry incubator, right, for technology startups. So what I really try to find are there interesting, disruptive, or emerging technologies that actually want to pilot in emerging markets like the Philippines or Indonesia. So that's really the essence of why I think innovation is quite intriguing in parts like the Philippines or Indonesia because the dynamics of the market, right? I mean, maybe the top 10 or 20% look like actually the US market, but then there's also the bottom of the pyramid, which is majority of the population.
So you're serving your two markets in each of these countries.
Correct, all the time, yeah.
And Smart, sorry, I don't want to cut your introduction if you're still going.
No, it's fine.
I'm eager to ask questions.
Yes.
So when I think of Smart, when I hear their name over and over in the past decade, it's always about how they're leaders with respect to SMS.
Yes.
How messaging in the Philippines is just different than anywhere else. So tell me a little bit about that and how it makes you different.
Yeah, I think, well, at some point we were called the texting hub of the world because we send more SMS per capita than any, I guess, any country in the world. I think until now we send, before the hype, it was like 1 billion SMSs per day in a country of less than 100 million people.
This is pre-smartphone SMS, isn't that kind of like
exactly
the 2002 era? You guys were just messaging like crazy already.
Exactly. So it really served a need, which is how to communicate across islands, actually, and also across continents, because 10% of the population of the Philippines are outside the Philippines.
And was that a way of communicating? Like I know that customers there were doing it as a way of saving costs because compared to a voicemail, a text message was a small amount of data. Was that also helping you guys manage the network capacities and such? Like people are sending so many messages. Okay, you enabled your networks to carry those, or what?
Yeah, it was quite intriguing because we thought that we'll build the network for voice, but in the end, we tried to build the network to actually accommodate SMSs. And then now, obviously, we're trying to figure out how to transition the behavior from SMS into data. Right.
Do you think the entire, you talked about these two segments of your market, will they both move into data internet simultaneously, or will that higher end market go to the smartphone and adopt internet, and then later on that trailing group?
Yeah, actually there's what I call the curse of emerging markets, which also happens, I think, in a place like India. I just had a briefing from Cisco last week, that the smartphone penetration actually is quite high, or is growing quite quickly, but the mobile internet subscription is not. Right? Because people are trying to figure out how do I actually still live in a world of data that it's not, 1 Philippine peso per text, but data is like per GB or per MB. They don't exactly know how to be charged, so they start not using it, or at least just turn it off, and then maybe only use it once per week, or just go to the mall and get free Wi-Fi.
Right.
But they still like to use apps. It's just a little bit different.
Right, different usage scenarios.
Correct.
And I don't want to. I want to make sure you get time to cover your slides, so I'll let you go through those and I'll hit you with the questions.
Yeah, I'll do this quickly.
As always, the audience can approach the microphones.
Please, and I'm here all day. So what it is really, and then I talk about the Philippines. Only the past couple of years actually done a lot of very good growth. We're one of the, I think, number 1 and number 2 fastest growing economy in Asia. And then also just the economy is just doing quite well. So for people who don't know where the Philippines is, it's right below Hong Kong. It's kind of to the east of Singapore and north of Indonesia, right? And actually we have a very large population, over 100 million people, second in Southeast Asia. But what's intriguing is that half our population is under 23, which actually drives a lot of why people want to do data services. Right, because it's just, and then Facebook is just 99% penetration among the 30 million internet users. And then English actually is the medium of communication across islands. Actually, we have dialects all over the Philippines, but then no one understands each other except when they talk in English. So it's quite intriguing. So what we try to look for really, and this is really the framework of how we think about innovation. How do we incubate internal and external, and how do we inspire the next generation of innovators, and then how do we connect ourselves to the world, because we still think ourselves as an island. No one kind of, unless they deliberately want to go to the Philippines, will go to the Philippines just in passing unless they want to take that vacation to the beach, right? So we want to think about what is emerging market innovation to drive actually human capital development or economic development. And what's really intriguing about SMART, and actually this is where maybe it leads me to the incubation part, is we actually are part of a business group that owns many different assets, right? And this is something I think that's unique to the telecom sector, where our chairman or our private equity firm that owns most of SMART also owns the largest electric utility, owns the largest water utility, owns the tollways, owns 8 hospitals, owns the largest agriculture and food company in Indonesia. And also we have places like in Myanmar, or we bought the power plant in Singapore. So this is what you call as convergence opportunity to its maximum, where literally the management team of each of our companies are shared. So I actually can talk to the CTO of an electric company in one instant without doing like a formal business meeting.
Right, that give you opportunities in smart cities and in the
exactly,
highways.
Exactly, and you know why? Because emerging markets, what really is the drive for the economy is energy. It's basic infrastructure, right? It's toll roads, it's agriculture, and how does telecom fit a role in these types of things, right? So I just talk about IdeaSpace. There's a lot of ideas. This is really one of our tools on how to get ideas into SMART. Close to 700 teams applied for 10 spots, that's 1.4%. We have an ecosystem. So this is actually my last slide, which is I think the most intriguing for the whole audience. So I ran a startup competition. All of those other companies are my LPs. And lo and behold, I expected. I actually worked in Silicon Valley. I used to work in Cisco in the Incubation Group. I was brought into the Philippines. And I thought most of the ideas that I'll get are kind of, social media apps, whatever. But more than half of the ideas that got submitted into IdeaSpace, the 700 ideas, were in transportation, healthcare, agriculture, energy, mining, which you don't think of in Silicon Valley, as maybe innovation, but that's what innovation means in emerging markets.
You're talking about the verticals, which we kind of look at the second step, bring the technology and address the verticals. But it's true, so many technologies grow out of the verticals as well. Gandhi said something really strange. One time he said that as he's fighting for independence and starving for it, he said sanitation is more important than independence. Meaning clean water. So infrastructure is critical to economic development and liberty and progress, as much as political liberty and anything else. Economic power and empowerment and health of that offers people, gives them a leg up. So I'm not surprised to see this chart.
Yeah, and just because that's the people we serve, right? I mean, SMART, we have a luxury actually that we own 70% of the Philippine market.
Yeah.
So we're kind of a dominant player, as to call that. But most of our guys are exactly that. I mean, our ARPU is only $5.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right, $5. $5 a day, or month. Sorry, $5 a month. And how do we actually give services that they demand because they see the internet and they want to get really cool technology, but they only can pay $5 a month? Right, so it's very, very tricky.
Yeah.
And then I think the internet is what they call is the great equalizer of the world.
Yeah.
So, that's exactly the challenge and the opportunity part.
I like to challenge Silicon Valley over and over again with this opportunity, because if you look at India, where ARPUs are $9 a month, or ARPUs are $5 a month, and yet companies are operating profitably. When we talk about innovation here at Silicon Valley, we talk too much about the next version of Angry Birds, scalable vector graphics and a great game on the phone. But there's tremendous opportunity both financially and with respect to making an impact if you do a cool SMS application. And in fact, SMS is so constrained, you have to be very creative to do something good with it. And Twitter's a great case. The example of confining people stimulates and makes you be more creative to say something intelligent and useful in 140 characters. So, just like for the person writing an individual tweet, the person building those applications, that constraint means if you're a very creative person, maybe you can create something fantastic out of 140 characters, that little amount of space, an SMS type of application, that would appeal to a $5 ARPU customer, make them a $5.20 ARPU customer, and give them something, an opportunity or a tool that they never had before. So
even in our hackathons actually, so we run like hackathons probably twice a month. people develop dual platform, right? So they develop the exact, well, some sort of functionality at an SMS level, but at the same time an app level, or some of them actually get creative where the data is pinged through SMS at the back, but it actually looks like an Android app.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't necessarily have to be the data plan to use the application.
Back in the old days for us, 13 years ago, we had Palm Query apps, which is in the W Query app.
Yes.
So the point was a framework that sits on the phone that's local, and you're just asking for a little sip of data, and then fits into this template and looks like a full-fledged app.
Exactly.
And it's just, we used the Mobitex network at the time, it made it look like often, if done correctly, it can look like a very rich application with, as you said, populated by very small amounts of data.
Correct.
So, and in my opinion, it takes almost a greater amount of creativity to build something powerful in that manner than to pull out all the SDKs and build that big scalable vector graphics app. It's 120 megabytes of content. So you mentioned hackathons. What other tools do you have to connect with developers? And you're in the Philippines and in Asia, but then also in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, so, well, I actually want to thank everybody here who gave me advice if I should open up a San Francisco office. That's really kind of on top of my mind right now, if I should do it or not do it. But with regards to developers, we have obviously our developer network. We run events, we sponsor events, we bring in people. In the Philippines, the difficulty is that, exactly, it's not an intentional place that I want to go to just to kind of see what's happening. So we actually have to bring in people. We have the Foursquare Hackathon, we have Angel Hack there, we host startup weekends. We typically fly somebody to the Philippines directly. So it's investment on our part. But it gets our developers and startups exposed to global way of thinking, right? And I think that's exactly what people like the Philippines have to do in order to compete in the world, or at least not get left behind. So we try to bring Silicon Valley mentality to the Philippines as well, right? So that's kind of what we do, but we do it very regularly. It's probably like a hackathon, it's not a startup event, every other week in the Philippines.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about IdeaSpace. So you work for Smart, and you're the president of IdeaSpace. Tell me how that fits and how that makes sense.
So IdeaSpace actually is funded by all the different companies, probably 18 companies in general, ranging from hospitals to electric utilities to agriculture to a private equity firm which owns the whole thing, to power plants, to obviously PLDT and Smart, and actually our TV station that we own too. So they all funded IdeaSpace in order to think about how do we actually harness the power of the idea bank of the Philippines and also of Southeast Asia in general, because we have applicants from other places, not just the Philippines. And that's, actually when I was Cisco, I ran the iPrize, and that's what we said, how do we actually just tell the world, this is kind of what we're looking for, what is the innovation, and then how do we spur the next generation of innovators, right? Because places like Asia, actually similar to Silicon Valley, but a little bit different, you have to know somebody to get capital. But unfortunately, our economic structure is a little bit different, right? So only the people in the top 10% actually get access to capital. So we said, let's take out names. So your last name doesn't matter, right? Let's take out affiliation, and then I evaluate you at the basis, literally, of your idea, and then you win the funding because of that. And actually, it attracted a lot of people, which means that there's usually a hunger for people to do it. And these are examples of Incubating, for example, of what we do. It's not just SMS or mobile, but we invested in knee-joint companies, we invest in water purifiers, we invest in, actually this one seems to be like not a practical thing, which is virtual queuing system, right? What it is that you go to a store like AT&T or for a Smart, you get the number. Sometimes you wait there for an hour, and that's not good.
That's the Apple Store for us.
Yeah, maybe the Apple Store, right? So literally, this is virtual queuing. You get the number, you put it in their system. It's fully integrated with the customer service kind of thing. And it will SMS you or email you 15 minutes before you have to come back to the store. You don't waste your time. And they're the first company in IdeaSpace that at least six-figure dollar-wise in 6 months. And then another one, which is another example, is travel, right? So most people think, let's take an airplane. But we don't actually think when was the last time you took a bus? I took it when I was in college, honestly, right? Greyhound, whatever, right? But you know, 1 million people take a bus each day, every month in the Philippines.
Yep.
And like, why don't someone think about Expedia for buses? You know, which I didn't think of, but these guys thought of and they're doing quite well. So these are the types of examples that we support in IdeaSpace, which actually takes advantage of those synergies, right? In healthcare, in transportation, you know, in efficiency in general.
That sounds great. I mean, so you guys have a broad view, and you'll look at anything, whether it applies to anything. Will you look at anything at all, or does it need to tie into the PLDT group of companies?
Yeah, technically we could look at everything, but that's where inspiration would come, right? Because I grew up in the IT world. I was in defense contractor. I did some VC in communication, and then I was in Cisco. My world was IT and telecom. But all of a sudden, my startup, who is this knee joints company, asked me about how does IT play a role in my company? And your mind just got stretched, and our team and our management team just got stretched of how to actually find intersections with IT, telecom, into these industries where traditionally they don't really think about IT as the first thing in their mind, right? So it's quite intriguing actually, and it's a big challenge for me because I don't know anything about the FDA approval process, but I have to learn it right now, right?
Well, it's true too that there's comparative advantage in every market, and the U.S. has tremendous medical research, but we also have tremendous medical regulation, which means a lot of the interesting ideas that come out, you can't actually try here. Now, some countries have comparative advantage in ease of regulation. I'm not saying
no regulation.
I mean, we don't want dangerous surgery taking place, but they can be much like mobile health, for example. A lot of companies are aggressive with that. They're going to Africa to try their ideas out because it's easier to do a trial over there than it is here. So it's interesting to see you can have advantage in R&D, you can have advantage in ease of trial. And
yeah, and it's a factor of the market, right? It's a factor of people want first world services, but they cannot pay first world prices. So we, as the innovation group of SMART, have to be creative. And mobile health, for example, with financial services like smart money, these are things because people want these services, it's just not accessible.
Right.
And it's our responsibilities, I don't want to say, but what hired me or what made me go to the Philippines is that the head of HR, I don't know the sales pitch, and every day you'll do a CSR, right? A CSR just means you will actually serve people that were underserved all the time. And same thing, health, financial services, transportation, these are big opportunities that I don't think you're not going to make money. You actually could make a lot of money, it's just in a different way.
Yeah, fun, absolutely. I mean, there's always we make money because otherwise it wouldn't be sustainable.
Correct.
For an enterprise to do.
Correct.
But it's great to combine doing both. And telecommunications has a great history, but like I said, teleconnectivity is directly related to productivity and GDP and quality of living. So I think you're doing a good job of bringing
and oftentimes regulators actually look at the industry, right? Because sometimes we're just way ahead of them, right? I don't know what, but at least the government of the Philippines, they're very good, but then sometimes they just look to us to say, where's the world going, and tell us, and then we can make regulations around that. Which I don't know if the same is in the US, right?
I think if we have any European telcos in the room, they might not be on board right now. But yeah, there's mixed feelings about that, I imagine. So this is brilliant. I love your approach. I want to know, do you have any more slides after this? Because I'll make sure
No, it's really just my contact information. I have pictures of what IdeaSpace looks like, but we can talk later.
That's great. So you're around, and you were for the rest of today, or yesterday?
Yeah, and I'm here in Silicon Valley 3 or 4 times a year, if not more often. I went to Stanford. I always have to watch football games.
So what tool are you using to watch that?
Right now I try to VPN in and try to figure out how to access ESPN or something, so sorry. So that's really something that I try to do. If not, I try to stream it online via the audio.
Any way possible. Fine, so which also takes us to another opportunity that's off topic, but there's people all around the world that want to watch certain content. Why is that not available to them? And some way that you could pay for it and get it easily, you would. And somebody be making profit and delivering services. I mean, I know it's going to take the south of California to kind of get on board with some of the modern technologies.
Exactly. I think, and then we did actually a big deal with MCA. You know, and we have exclusive rights for distribution for music in the Philippines. 70% of all content exclusive to Smart, and that's something we always run out to. You know, I mean, it's very country specific, it's very license specific, but you know, I think it's how we then work with each other to make sure the opportunities get unlocked and everybody wins.
Telcos certainly have an opportunity to help deliver that content in a legal and efficient manner as well.
Correct.
All right, well, thank you very much, Earl. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Good. Thanks so much. It was helpful.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds great, guys. That way. All right, so next up, we're going to hear from Rogers up in Canada, my home country. We've got Scott Vanderwell, VP of Corporate Strategy, coming to talk to us.